Yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. Well, I can't see you. That doesn't work. What if I got 2 hair clips? I just like to see your face.
So much. There's so much.
Remember when you used to do my favorite hairstyle for you? Before you had locks, when you would do the rooster?
Yes, I remember that.
It was like one here and one right back here. Kind of giving like a faux hawk thing.
I've done it with this.
You have?
Yeah.
I never see it.
Yeah, I did it a few weeks ago.
Huh.
That was annoying. Okay. Here we go.
Lights. Well, let's just start by saying I'm glad everyone's here. Key, glad you're here. Chris, I'm glad you're here. Cashew, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too. I'm glad you're here. Key, hey. Yeah, I mean, we're really doing something.
We had a hell of a night last night too. For some repair reasons happening in Sky's room. She needed to sleep in the bed with us for the last 2 weeks. And last night, she overflowed the diaper in the bed, number one, but still waking up with like, why is this sheet soaking wet? It was intense.
Yeah, it's a lot because I love the cuddles. I love the cuddles, and I'm willing to get peed on for the cuddles. And went to sleep at 4 a.m. and I was here at 5:45. So that was I was confused.
Did you take the 6 a.m.?
Bewildered. No, I did the podcast notes during the 6 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so the notes, we have intention 1, that's 1 chapter, and intention 2, the following chapter.
Yep. So what we're going to do for y'all today is this is going to be one longer podcast on intention. The book Seed of the Soul does break the podcast, or the book does break intention into 2 different chapters, and we're going to do 1 podcast for intention.
Option here, watch half of it, pause, watch the other half of it. I've loved hearing the stories from the people in the 50 Days of Evolution program currently about how they're listening to the podcast. Like one of our team members, like, I just love cleaning and listening to it. And then some other people driving. When I just left home, Yaya was pulling it up on YouTube in our living room saying she hadn't caught up on the last one yet.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love when Sky sees us on the phone or on TV. All right. Well, intention. Gary says, our reality is created by our intentions. Reality is not created by action. It is created by the intention which infuses those actions. It is how you choose. Intention is how you choose to shape the light that is flowing through you at all times. It is how you choose to consciously create the world around you. An intention is not only a desire, it is the use of your will. I mean, this is up there for my favorite parts of the book. For so many reasons. And I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that one's life is not the actions they do. One's life is the intentions. Cut, man.
No, we're
out.
good. No, we're good.
Take my mic
No,
off.
we're good.
I'm off.
No, don't hit that mic.
I really got to burp a lot.
Yeah, you had a really big salad. It looked yummy. All right, say more. Say more.
Welcome to Intention. Oh, we're falling apart.
Restart? No. Okay, we're in this together. The four of us in this room. Okay, so let's go back for a second to light, where we were before we hit intention, to remind ourselves and the viewers. Gary talked about light as having different frequencies, and you can be high vibrational in the realm of joy and faith and possibility and play, or you can be vibrating at a lower frequency of the light spectrum in anger, fear. Really, like fear is a big one, that a big defining category from the intention chapter. And all right, so then Gary goes on to say intention now is how you shape the light that's traveling through you, moving from your head down into your feet.
Yeah, I love it.
And you shape that light with your thoughts, which is your beliefs, your agendas, your intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, deeper than like you shape the light moving through you with like what you choose to do. It's like the intention with what you choose to do. And if there was like one thing I could pull out of this book, this would be up there. This would be up there as like one of the core lessons that hit home for me.
Which is a tricky thing. Like, I think about teaching our daughter Sky, quote, how to be a good person. And I think about the lessons I got, and it was action based. It was like, well, Lindsey, it's kind to hold the door open for someone. So you do it because it's kind. Or, it's you're a good, I mean, these words weren't said to me explicitly, but like, you're a good student if you get good grades. You study really hard. So, and that, for that example, even that wasn't, I don't believe that was said specifically to me. I can remember studying with the intention of, I'm going to gain approval from this. I'm going to be perceived as a great person. I'm going to do what they said is right. And so I'm like, wow, how do we teach children, like, both like the beauty of actions that are of service of others, but the deeper root of your intention in doing any action is going to shape your world?
My approach for teaching Sky is to try and communicate with her on what I feel is the deepest level she can receive whatever I'm trying to say to her. And so I think that'll deepen as she grows. And right now, I think like we do a lot of teaching Sky through teaching her the actions of kindness, the actions of manners, whatever. And as soon as she's able to digest something like intention, I want to always be modeling to her so she feels it coming from me. It's like, it's actually what infuses those actions. It's not just the actions themselves. And I relate to your experience in that I learned so many ways of how to like act the part and play the part. And I feel like for a large part of my life, I was like acting like a good person, acting polite, acting charismatic, acting. And only in hindsight did I like get how it felt like an act. When I like when I started to get connected to my heart in my life, I started to see that I had been like playing a game in all these different ways. Yeah, so I think that's part of why intention is a big learning for me.
I was curious to hear more about like you how you got a sense that it was coming across like an act.
Well, well, okay. So let's talk about basketball. In growing up in sports, like who I was on my team authentically and organically was like the person who brought the direction, the person who my teammates looked to see what are we doing, what's going on. One of the most talented players and the player who had like the highest care factor, like my heart and soul was in it. And then I started to collect praise around this thing called being a leader. And I grew, it seems like I grew like attached to that. And then I started to learn how to act like a leader. And then that's something that I felt like the acting like a leader probably started in my late teens, like at the college level, where like I wouldn't say like I was being like fake. However, I do know that like there was times where like what was calling me forth was like a leader would behave this way. Insert the behavior. Different than it being like something I never even thought about. It was just what I was on when I was younger. Now I had this whole like history of praise and like reps in social context to be like, all right, you know, this is how I need to act to be the person that like I feel like I want to be, which I think it was well intended. I think I was doing the best thing I knew how to do. However, yeah, I just didn't get that it was like, yeah, like not really real. You know, not really all the way real.
Yeah, you sharing that reminded me of this training I went to. I think I was like maybe 24. It was a yoga training, and at that point I'd been teaching a while, and I was in the training. I think it was in Arizona with a bunch of people who hadn't started teaching yet. We were doing a lot of small group practice teach sessions, like 5 of us. And this training had maybe 200 people in it. So however many groups of 5 that is. And you stayed with your group the whole training. It was a week-long thing. And I remember we would do feedback, and I had this sense that, well, this real knowing, it's like, oh, I've have some feedback to offer that's true, and that I've had some experience that these teachers haven't. And there's something for me to tell, to share. But I remember I got scared that my exact phrase in my head was, they're going to think I'm a bitch. So my intention actually became wanting to be liked. My intention became wanting to be appeasing and pleasing to people. And so I held that down. I didn't say what I thought. I was very manipulative in my feedback giving in our group session until maybe day 4, when we just literally done enough yoga that I couldn't hold up a mask anymore. And I loosened up and I started telling the truth. And towards the end of the training, we were sharing just our experiences and our own insights and discoveries, and then our relationships we'd been building in the group. And one of the women shared with me, she's like, Lindsey, you know, you took such a big turn halfway through. She said, honestly, when you came in, I mean, I just thought you were a bitch. And like, wow, you're a totally different person now. And I was like, to hear my own words from my head, like the strategy of like, okay, my intention is to make sure this doesn't happen. And then what happened was
self-fulfilled
prophecy. Cause like I was just looking to like create something different than reality for people. And what they got of me was something different than the reality of me. And intention.
Yeah. And like through seeing how, I had wandered away from authenticity in looking to be perceived in a certain way, I learned that, and I relearned here in reading the intention chapter, that intention is, the way into it is not to add layers. The way into it is not to add on, I want you to like me. The way is not to like, I want my teammates to know that Chris cares a lot and that Chris is a hard worker and that, Chris wants their trust. Like adding those as like into informing how I behave. Well, that's talk about a way of not leading.
Yeah.
Intention, like I think leaders naturally emerge as a product of like being so aligned with their intention that it's a natural emergence. That someone in any context, whenever they are aligned with their intention, people begin to relate to them in a way that outsiders looking in say, oh, that's a leader. That's a leader. And so that's what I like relearned and remembered. It was like, oh yeah, like in the areas in my world where I'm called to lead, it won't be no try hard energy. It won't be like I'm trying to grab it, I'm trying to work for it. Like if that's an area of my life where others should see me as a leader, like it'll be what I'm on. If I'm getting, because whenever I was coming up and being given that praise, I would have still been doing what I was doing, even if no adult ever said that to me.
Yeah.
But enough times I'm not blaming them. I mean, thanks for saying that, y'all. And I guess it's like the way that I absorbed that was to start looking for it, which I'm sure is probably also infused with like other ways of looking to capture worth and stuff like that, and I just chose that path, so it's not like it was just that thing, but
it's like intention. I'm not putting this on you, but just, I didn't know you back then, but like intention to be special. That's been an intention. But what I wanted to say to you around what you were sharing, what was it? Gary talks about the strongest intention winning. Oh, but before we go there, actually, I almost had it. It's going to come back. Oh, here's what I wanted to add on to what you just said. You said something along the realms of like, if it's the arena's for you to lead, it's not going to have to be any like try hard. And I think sometimes, and then I think also like part of the path of evolution for me has been get in there and try hard and meet the outcomes of my try hard. The path of learning through pain, to be like, oh wait, This is not what I want. And why am I bringing all these extra layers? And like, cause when I started like meeting with team members and hiring and firing, like there was all these extra intentions that I was bringing into the space that created pain.
That's like if you were doing those things, wanting to be recognized as leader, that's different than doing them because in your heart, that's the way to go. So that's the distinction I want to make, is that going the hard path, please choose that every time it's true. Go the path that's true, whether it feels amazing or scary as heck or difficult or confusing or dark. However, had you said, I'm going to start hiring and firing because that's going to get me acknowledged as a leader, that's where, that's the context within which I mean, like, be conscious of your intention. What are you reaching for? What's your motivating factor?
So Gary, I reread the chapter today and this stood out to me for the first time in Gary talking about conscious and unconscious intentions, is I realized I'd had this belief that something that was conscious was automatically more powerful than something that was unconscious in terms of intentions. I realized that there was this like, oh, if I can see it, if I'm conscious to it, I must have already enlivened it more. And Gary talks about unconscious and conscious intentions, and whichever one is the strongest will win in the realm. Specifically, he was speaking about conflicting intentions. I want to be in this relationship. I want this relationship to end. Like those two conflicting intentions. And it just was an aha for me, because I'm like, oh, right. Okay. It's not just what I am consciously intending that's going to be the strongest.
Like also too, they can both be conscious and be conflicting, and they both can be unconscious and be conflicting.
I have a conscious confliction often with moments where I want to stay at home with Sky and I want to go to work.
I think it feels so true to me when he says when the competing forces are pretty much balanced and of equal power, wanting to be for each of their intention. When each intention, y'all know what I'm saying. Then
they're going toe to toe and they're evenly weighted. It's a good match. They both weighed in at the same poundage.
Yeah. That sort of like stalemate is painful. That sort of stalemate is like causes sickness.
He literally said can produce schizophrenia and sickness.
And that's where I experience like being like in the middle of the splintered battle and not making a decision feels worse than just choosing one, or surrendering to one, whatever the feeling of it is, and just letting it go one way or the other. Like being in that middle point it hurts.
Yeah. And to define the splintered battle here as a reminder of like the splintered personality, Gary talks about light when all intentions are aligned and true, light being like the laser beam being an example of what the human light frequency can do. It's just all directed to the same point. It's illuminating so strongly. And then when we have conflicting intentions, the splintering of that light that happens, the fraying off, the going in opposite directions, the pulling the psyche and the physicality. Like, so I feel pain in my body when I'm not aligning in one direction. That being this splintered experience of a personality that's not intending.
Did you use the word laser yet?
Yeah, I just used
laser?
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
A
laser.
A laser is like a whole personality. So will you talk about your experience of moments or areas of your life where you feel like wholeness and that laser beam type clarity, laser beam type way of showing up in the world? Will you share times where you experienced that?
Yeah.
What it's like?
Yeah. Well, one area of my life that I experience it is around Kali Yoga Center. I have this, it feels to me like a deep calm of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now in life. And I intend to create and co-create in this place with my whole self. Like, and I've been at job, not that this is, well, it is a job for me and it's a spiritual path for me. And I'll just use job. I've been at jobs before where I have the job. I'm even on the job and I'm also looking for a new job on the job. And, or even just doing the task in front of me and daydreaming about the possibility of a different way of working, a different life, and the disconnect that's there. But with Kali, I feel so clear and in this. I don't it's not like I think it's going to look the same all the time. So I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I have a deep knowing that where I'm working and where I'm putting my energy for my work life right now is perfect for me. I'm aligned there. And thank you, being in here the other night at like 11 p.m. cleaning the bathrooms, I really had a sense of purpose. I was just aligned to the whole thing because this was just another manifestation of doing any other role I serve here. So that's one place I feel whole.
That's really dope. I see you living that out, and I think it's cool to see like how much the laser like clarity can increase bandwidth for adversity, increase bandwidth for, well, yeah, it's 11 o'clock at night and the thing for me to do is go clean the bathrooms and get up on a ladder. Like we got like 25-foot high ceilings here in the bathroom, y'all. So like cleaning the bathroom is like, it ain't no regular type bathroom. It's like an hour and a half to clean one of them about.
If we're doing a deep clean, the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, what other way is there to clean it?
Well, I mean, I just want to tell everyone we're not asking our employees at this point to get up on a 20-foot ladder. We're reserving that for Chris and Lindsey. And
I've never cleaned the bathrooms on a 20-foot ladder.
Okay. You're right. I didn't want.
It's just true.
My intention was to include you, and in doing that, I lied to the viewers.
It's okay.
Let's go back to jobs for a second. It's interesting. I feel like maybe you've had this experience. I know I have, of being in the spiritual working world and a place where people come for growth and all the things. And I meet a lot of people who are enticed by this as a work world, who are like, the conversation of like, I'm thinking about leaving my job. Mm-hmm. I just want to do something different in my life. Mm-hmm. And then like I've seen people do that. Like I just jumped off of the ledge of the corporate world or whatever it is. And then I've seen people hang out for years. And I'm not saying I know the path for them. I'm not saying you should stay, you should go. But I've gotten a lot of interesting case studies in this world of seeing people hang out in that I'm still in the job that I'm actively saying I don't want, while considering other opportunities or daydreaming about other opportunities. But like the battling intentions there and how that drains energy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that myself, and like just analyzing a potential change to the point where analyzing it to death, and I'm dying of analyzing it. And excuse me, you know that platform is called Medium, where like it's like a writing platform where people can write to. Okay, so
is that the one Jordan Peterson was writing on for a while?
No.
Okay.
Medium, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's like you can upload your own writing content there, and then you can subscribe for it, and you can search a database of like articles about anything. And so I was reading an article on there that the person was talking about how whenever you get this trigger to make a change in your life, that then they never even used the word intention, but I took intention from it. It was like, instead of thinking about the change, think about the emotion that you're searching for that's missing from your current life. Mm-hmm. So with career change, right, it could be like creativity. I want to feel myself expressing creativity. And I think that making the intentions conscious can really help with these times where we put ourselves in scenarios that are like pretty high stakes, that it's like, oh, I got to make this big life shift. Mm-hmm. A lot of times for me, my imagination can go to some really big changes, like, I got to go live in the woods for 2 months straight and do a 48-day fast. And, I can get pretty extreme.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this morning we were texting each other houses in Florida.
Yeah.
And I walked in to work today saying I'm moving to Florida.
We leave tonight.
I love you, Chris.
I love you too. And a lot of times the intention can de-escalate. Getting conscious on the intention can de-escalate the pressure or even the need to make a different external decision.
Hold on. Do it again.
Getting conscious of your intention that's underneath the brain's made up vision of, you need to leave your wife and you need to move to India. Mm-hmm. And then you'll feel blank. Mm-hmm. What's the intention? What is the intention?
Okay, yes.
What is the intention underneath the plan that you've made that you need to do? And not only have you made the plan, you're also splintered about the plan.
Yeah.
It's like not only, not only do I create some plans of what I need to go do to become a better person, then I resist the own plan that I made.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's suffering.
Yeah.
It's suffering.
I thank you for sharing that. Where I thought you were going with that at first.
Well, I never dreamed up I was going to leave you then move to India though.
No. Oh, no, okay. I know. I know. You're really good about telling me your dreams as they happen in real time, moment by moment. But I do want to get in later in this podcast to leaving each other and that conversation we had in camping.
Yeah.
Before we get there.
Yeah, we've had a few conversations about leaving each other.
Before we get there. I just wanted to bring this up too, because this is a thing, and this is a thing I can do. This is where I thought you were going. All right, so sometimes life is calling us to make drastic changes in our life. Leave the job, leave the partner, sell the house, buy the house, have a baby, whatever. How the dopamine hit of daydreaming about the new possibilities in life and realms can be enough of an immediate satiation that the action is never taken. And therefore, like, the fear of change is avoided. But like that cycle that I know I've gotten into on things in my life of like, well, I'll just keep daydreaming about it and that feels good right then, but I don't ever actually have to put my money where my mouth is. I don't have to do the thing. And getting stuck in that cycle, which is really like my intention is to daydream. My intention is to like momentarily check out of this reality and pretend like that's my life while I'm actually not intending to change my life. That's a deep type of suffering I'm familiar with.
I mean, from a like, I'm like one of the GOAT daydreamers.
Can you tell some of our viewers what a GOAT is?
Greatest of all time. What is that thing called?
Acronym.
It's an acronym for greatest of all time.
He's a GOAT daydreamer.
So the danger is that the dopamine that can come from the daydream can in and of itself become the activity. And that's a dangerous loop to be in.
Yeah.
So now, 9 years later, your ass is having that same daydream about the job, thinking that it's going to get you closer to doing the thing, but your body and brain has gotten into a cycle of getting the dopamine response off of thinking about it, and that's just enough.
And intending to fantasize.
Unconscious intention, probably, because I want to think that if people knew, like, if people knew like, oh man, really for real, and if I knew for real, for real, thinking of this forever, I have gotten in 0% closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one thing that's helped me chill out a little bit on the daydreaming is realizing I've had the 4 years long daydream.
Oh my gosh, I need to. I mean, you know this, I'm sure, on some level already. I've been talking and intending, so I thought to write a book, and I've daydreamed about signing people's books for them, and that's gotten a great dopamine hit. And that's like, that's not.
Yeah, you haven't written a page yet.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Look, it's 2024. I started thinking about podcasting in 2018, and I thought hard.
When I first met you,
I thought hard.
You were talking about it.
Yeah.
Well. And some people might say, well, look, you're doing it now. And yes, and so bravo. And then also, I can't remember the quote we read yesterday in a meeting with the 50 Days crew, but it was like, time has got its hooks on you.
Yeah.
Like
time, okay, here I am now, and time got a 6-year bite of me on this.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I can hold both.
Yeah.
I can be proud that we doing this right now and be like, damn.
Yeah.
If it takes 6 years to go from inspiration to action on everything, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. One of my, before you, when I was dating, one of my commitments I made throughout the dating process of like beginning in high school, first boyfriend, up into meeting you was like, I was like, okay, so what I want to be doing is get faster and faster at breaking things off when intuition tells me this isn't the person for me. And that felt, I mean, I really intended that. And that was a really clear, conscious intention for me that like helped me both navigate the world of dating while also honoring that like time is happening in this physical realm. And like, I'm responsible for my use of the time.
So what was your longest relationship?
Do we count like break up for a time period, get back together?
Yeah, we count the whole life cycle.
But do we add those together?
We count from the first dating to the last breakup.
Even if we dated other people in between all that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so give me the...
Let's just say the longest was like a year and 8 months.
Okay, how long into a year and 8 months did you know you were out?
Why are you gonna ask me that? Like 10 months in.
Yeah. On multiple occasions, I've been 2.5 years into a relationship, and I knew I needed to be out at about month 7.
Remember I talked about intuition for me being a really clear, simple statement? In all of my relationships, I can pinpoint the time and location, the moment, which room I was in, what part of planet Earth I was on, where intuition said, it's time to go.
It's tough.
And I'm like, oh gosh, tough. I just heard it, but let me do 10 more months.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, let me see if I can change intuition's mind.
Yeah.
Be careful getting into that one. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Chris.
Sales pitch on intuition.
Yeah.
Never take no for an answer.
So spiritual partnership. I mean,
that's fair.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Let's talk about spiritual partnership.
All right, let me set the stage of it. Gary talks about in the book the levels of like the
different layers of reality. How I think that's where you're going?
Yes.
Okay.
And he brings in archetypes and part of that defining of a layer of reality, and an archetype being a collective understanding of an agreement, a personality type, a nation, whatever it may be. And so we start at the most personal, which he talks about an inverted triangle, and that like bottom tip being the most personal layer, and that would be each of our individual selves.
Name, gender, race.
That's when we go up.
Yeah, that's and at the personal self, right down there at the bottom. This is who I am. I am a male. Am I going in the wrong order?
Yeah, you're going in you're not going in the wrong order.
So at the personal level.
Here's at the personal level. The individual experience I'm having. How I am in my
on a different topic.
Oh,
okay,
I am.
Okay.
We'll merge together here. The individual experience I'm having, how I am in my life that is unique to me, that no other human is experiencing this life.
Yes.
Then we go up to the impersonal with my family unit. That's still a like a spiritual and soul level connection and relationship that I'm in, but it's less personal than my immediate own life, which we could go off and maybe we will on him talking about the orchestrating of who's in your family being perfect for your soul's evolution and their soul's evolution. Okay, but then we go up another layer and we get work, your next soul body.
Yeah. I mean, I love the archetypal perspective, because what I feel is more true than like any of us living out a particular situation in our life and experiencing everything that comes with being unsatisfied in our job, or yearning to take this new risk, or wanting to travel, or debating over should we have a second baby, debating should we move. What feels more true than us having those individual things is like archetype from the archetype level.
Archetypally is the word.
Archetypally level. That scenario, that persona, that issue is moving through us as it's done so many times. Like you're not special if you're at a crossroads in your life and it's time to make a career change. Like that's a mode, that's a thing in the human experience that has plopped itself in your life. But the archetype is that phenomena. The archetype of the new parents who never sleep. Like, it's not like, it's more true that that has come on to us than like we're that. So that's why I like the archetypally stuff.
The archetypal lice.
I don't got lice.
So one of the archetypes he brings up is that of marriage. And I love reading it because it goes into marriage and spiritual partnership. And it gave me like, when he said that, like, you can.
What is that?
It was sweet relief.
Oh.
When he said you can bring, and we'll go into defining these, but you can bring the archetype and the intention of spiritual partnership into the archetype of marriage. And through doing that, you play the role of the growth and the evolution of that archetype. Just as me being in the archetype of female, a less personal layer of my consciousness than Lindsey Crisp. But by me participating in female, I get the opportunity to move and evolve the female forward. And so spiritual partnership, the understanding between two souls that their pairing is for the purpose of their soul's evolution.
An upgrade from being together so that we could survive longer. An upgrade from being together so that we can have a greater chance at making more money, an upgrade from the male protecting the woman from harm, an upgrade from the female providing the man with food and sex at his will, an upgrade into consciously entering into the partnership is like the purpose of us hitching. What is it called? Getting hitched is to evolve.
Yeah.
Is to evolve.
I just wanted to have something funny to say when you said the woman providing food and sex at will. I'm like, were we ever doing that?
I don't know what y'all were doing, but I feel like everybody who listening to this gonna know it was an expectation.
Yeah.
At some
Definitely.
point. So
Definitely.
I'm just trying to keep it a buck.
Yeah. So the evolution from that, which is kind of happened quickly. I mean, I remember as I was reading the chapter today, I remember being young, pre having a job, I was like not even middle school probably, and having this sense of like, okay, I'm going to get a male partner so that he can help provide for me. So like that archetype was moving through me.
So it happened quickly for you.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was something in like the teaching of the women before me it still carried that like, okay, you pair off for survival. No one was, for survival, for like resources and whatnot. And,
Not for growth, evolution.
My dad talked a little bit about, he didn't never use spiritual partnership, but he probably said something like the good old hard work of being married. Like he alluded to there's the spiritual component in there, but, even so
You were going to how it's what I think you were going on where your understanding of a relationship has evolved, where you started.
Yes. And through that, I don't feel like, and Gary kind of speaks to this, like the evolution from the marriage archetype to the spiritual partnership. The marriage one doesn't feel, as he describes it, doesn't feel that far behind me. Like it doesn't feel like it was been that long ago that in this scope of time, like this spiritual partnership feels new to my soul.
I just remember a life of trying to get myself to buy into wanting to do that for somebody.
Like provide or wanting to do what?
Yeah, like
Protect.
Okay, let me keep you alive. Let me promise you that everything's going to be okay, and let me give you my money. And I'm just like,
that sounds pretty good though.
I'm just like, that don't seem like what I really want to do. But I go through like however long I went through of like trying to convince myself that I would grow into wanting to do that for its own sake.
Mm-hmm.
And then meeting you and us clearly, before I had read the word spiritual partnership, saying we are mirrors. We have an opportunity to see each other as human beings outside of the like way that I want to point you down behaving so that you'll fit what I need you to be. This can be more than that. That to me feels like a spiritual partnership, and has felt like a spiritual partnership, and has brought forth the authenticity of like relating in a real way that has served our growth and will continue to serve our growth. And it's this bigger container has been the call for me. This like, oh yeah, this is what I'm for. This is what I want to commit to. Mm-hmm. And so even before I learned it, I knew what I was trying to establish wasn't for me.
So one of the things that I'm with, and then I'm also scared of, is Gary talks about spiritual partnership as the agreement between two souls that they're with each other as long as they're both evolving. And then when that growth stops, then the partnership stops and they find new spiritual partnerships who are suited for their growth and evolution. And on one level, and this is like, it's a splintered experience. It's like, well, and I'm like, there's faith in here too that I know can be applied. That's the remedy. But the fear,
come on,
the fear is like, well, I don't want Chris to go anywhere. And so one day this could be over.
And one day it will be.
Okay, but yeah, before we go there, like this could also be a lifelong spiritual partnership. And I was reading today and I had the thought, it just like flashed before my head. I was like, oh, if we stay together forever because we're growing, like I could just continue causing small level problems. So we'd always have something to work through and grow through, and then we'll stay together forever. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh. So it's really big. It's really big, the call to consider what Gary said there, which I feel is true, and still say, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
The faith for me is, if you choose that our relationship is no longer for you, or if I choose that our relationship is no longer for me,
for your evolution,
for my evolution, I trust that decision on either side, if it comes from love, it won't feel how it feels when I think about it from fear.
Yeah.
Like when I think about it from, which I do. Like while you were saying, I'm like, no, like we're always going to be together. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep living and showing up for that intention with you.
Yeah.
In our partnership. And if the time ever came where through love, one of us was like, yeah, this is complete, I got faith that we'll be able to handle that.
Yeah. What the celebrities were doing for a while, I don't know if they're still on it, was conscious uncoupling. And
yes, that's fancy. That's a fancy word. And I get we're in a transitional period, like trying to get out of saying breakup.
Well, but no, I took it more of like ending a partnership from love. It's like we got a divorce, they're saying, but we like consciously uncoupled.
Yeah, and I think I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to say like that's the vision that I hold for our highest separation if it ever happens. And it's not out of fear.
Just please don't. And this is over.
Yeah. But you'll already know by then. Okay, but here's another thing I wanted to say. There's consciously uncoupling. What was it? Oh, something I wanted to point out and like, okay, because when I made that joke about if I can just keep like bringing up little problems and we'll stay together and we'll evolve, something that I need to be reminded of, so I'll say it to you, to us all, is that evolution in a relationship is not happening solely through conflict. So I don't want to glorify like toxic arguing in a relationship. That's like, look, there's stuff we need to work through. See, like we're meant for each other's evolution. Cause like I can see a life so clearly where we've had our fair share of arguments, but where we are still evolving with each other in harmony. I don't think evolution only happens through igniting fires and
So, do you believe that evolution and love and maintaining a relationship can happen through thriving?
Yeah. 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 That's what I believe.
And I think, like, as like Gary, when he touches on stuff in the earlier chapters about like the nature of our learning can change, I know that that's possible. I know that, like, instead of in our whole experience things being like shame, depression, violence, heartbreak,
Pain.
like, I think what he's saying, relationships included in this, is that we can evolve and grow through thriving.
Yeah.
We can continue evolving and growing through pure bliss.
Choosing the path of love over the path of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Both eventually leading to evolution. But one, it seems, just takes a lot longer and hurts a lot more.
Yeah, so it can feel good to be together, and we can keep feeling good and keep wanting to be together.
Mm-hmm. And keep growing. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to conscious and unconscious intentions, because I want to share this and talk about this. Gary talks about whatever intention is the strongest will win. Even if there's two conflicting intentions, the strongest one will win. And we've had this discovery in our own relationship of, that's like 12-second backstory on Chris and I. We got together. We were so clear. This is my partner. Let's go. Let's have a baby. Let's do this thing. Let's run this business. In a matter of weeks, we were all in.
Oh, yeah.
All in. Mm-hmm. It was so fast, and it was such a yes. And throughout that process, though, over the years now, we had this great conversation camping during Christmas about the intention to be together and the intention to evolve, and then the uncovering of the shadow intention, the pacifying intention. For me is what it is. It feels good to intend to leave sometimes when things aren't going the way I think they should be going, or the evolution feels uncomfortable, or there's pain on the path of growth, or it comes up for me when I want resolution on something at the time I want resolution on it, and that's not happening immediately. It comes up for me when we feel, to me, uneasy for longer than a period of 4 hours, I think, is the intention to leave.
4 hours. You gave yourself.
I know.
Kind of exaggerated.
If we don't have resolution within 10 minutes of when I decide it's resolution time, I'm leaving. And that's not something that's new to you in this relationship. I was the kid playing games who I was leaving if it wasn't going the way I thought it would. I got really good at running from how often I was turning around from games and running home angry, sprinting home. So we talked, before I just monopolize all of this, we want to share some of our discoveries
from the camping trip.
Mm-hmm.
There is karmic outcomes being planted from soothing myself and you soothing yourself in times where we're fighting, soothing ourselves in, I'm gonna leave her. Mm-hmm. So the karmic pain of that for me has been a more and more painful return to grace. And getting back in alignment will become increasingly painful. And then also the consequences of me going to that place have increased.
Mm-hmm.
when we first got together, I could play around with those thoughts for 2 or 3 days before you would notice, or before you would bring up like, hey, like what's going on with you, or what's up with us. Now, instead of 2 or 3 days, it's 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 minutes, and it's much more painful.
Mm-hmm.
And getting through those conversations is much more of a challenge. So I'm seeing that, like, doing that same coping mechanism time and time again, the stakes have raised.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes have raised, and they will continue to raise if we continue to choose that path. And then that does have the potential to end the relationship. And every time that comes up, I can make a different choice, and I can see that come up and see it for what it is, and understand that, okay, here's goes my brain doing a neural pattern that is meant to soothe me and cure my feelings of disempowerment. Why do I feel disempowered? What is there for me in this experience of disempowerment? What compassion can I have for Lindsey, regardless of what she's on, regardless of what she's doing? Where can I see the me in Lindsey's current behavior, and therefore remove taking it personal, and therefore give her grace, and be able to communicate it with you, what I see, without being reactive. And that's, like, for me, the most powerful place I can come into our conflicts is from a place where, like, hey, this is what I see is going on with me. Here's what I went through. Here's what I experienced when I saw you do that. And, like, I don't need the conversation to go a certain way for me to be defensive. And that's because, like, in that moment, I'm coming from love. However, if I come from defensive, then I have to defend my point of view, defend my sense of self, defend my sense of power, defend.
What I got the aha of on our camping trip was that when I use I'm leaving as a pacifier for feeling unempowered, I'm energizing the intention to leave. And the dog I feed the most is going to win the fight. And so at the center of me, I don't want our relationship to be over. I don't want to leave you, but my strongest intention is going to win. And that's not the same as my most conscious intention is going to win. It's my strongest intention is going to win, conscious or not.
Okay, will you say more on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the subconscious. It's the stuff that's below the first layer of water. That's real and true is happening, but isn't in the light of the intellect. That's what I mean by unconscious intention. Is it's there. What's that phrase? Like, what stays in the shadow runs the show. It's not that I'm only being affected and my intentions are only manifesting from the place of what I'm conscious of. They're manifesting from the unconscious intention realm too. And I'm feeding all intentions. And that's like the more different directions the intentions I'm feeding are, the more splintered my experience of being human, the more discombobulated and disintegrated. And so, yeah, I know I'm not here to feed I'm going to leave. And I've needed to meet face to face. How willing am I to be in this relationship for spiritual evolution? Because we don't, at the realm of our relationship right now, we don't need each other for survival.
Yeah, we don't need each other, period.
Yeah.
And that's like, woo, that's why I love being in this with you.
Yeah.
It's like you are a beautiful, powerful, magical soul There's nothing, you don't need me. And that choice, I know you're making that choice for me too. And that makes this like big. That makes it big, because it's like, really gonna choose today?
Yeah.
Really gonna choose today?
Yeah. And I really am here to level up this responsibility of choosing in that laser like way, not the splintered. Sometimes I'm out.
So okay, so like
I don't choose him when he doesn't agree with me.
Now, like, people are like, well, how do I turn all my, I got like a disco ball. Like, my personality is like a disco ball. I got lights going everywhere. I got Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Talk about some work you've done to become more laser-like with your intention. Talk about what's worked for you.
Flow state activities have worked really well for me. So it's in the realm of getting out of the daydreaming and fantasizing about possibility and what could be and who I could be and what might be, and getting hyper focused into what's in front of me right then. One reason, I do many great things in this world, and one reason I do on a soul level love cleaning is because it's focused attention on a physical space that creates an immediate impact, and that it narrows my focus to what's right in front of me, which is one really simple way for me to take all the disco lights and bring them down to the intention of this room I'm in, this physical space. That's happened with, yoga practice is a really amazing training ground for bringing in all of the light and channeling it into the physical or breath or meditative practice that's right in front of you. Yeah, I know the feeling of being lost for myself and all of the possibility, and it's getting into physical action and physical flow state on one thing that has opened more doors for me in my life than any daydreaming about what could be that I've ever done.
And even with the asana or cleaning, it's still intention. It's not like the cleaning is magically making you focused. You have an intention there to bring focus.
And there's a revering of life there too, in that, like, I was listening to something the other day, and it's like, if you don't know what to do, like, just go do something right now. Go do something. It's the revering of life and the trusting of the path I'm on, that I don't need to come up with where it's going. I just need to get really involved in where life has positioned me right now to keep evolving.
So you said get involved. Get involved in something that is available to you in the here and now to become less splintered and to become more whole. You also said bring reverence. Consciously choose that what I'm about to go do is important and it's part of being alive, and bring focus to it. Bring focus to that activity. And what else?
Well, I just remembered the teacher that being a business owner has been in that, and I feel like you're going to relate to this one times 1,000. The requirement of, let's say I have a one-on-one meeting with someone for like a quarterly review. You usually do those, but for this example, pretend it's me. While I also have some lease negotiations hanging out in the realm of my head. Like, I just came from a meeting about something building related or whatever. Just the suffering that is not being able to define and align to what it is I'm actually can make an impact on right now. Like,
Okay.
so like that's just that training of like, okay, you're the person in front of me, and you've given me this compliment before that I'm good at doing this, which also makes me a horrible texter. You're the person in front of me. I will give you everything that I have. I revere your life enough that all the concepts, considerations, and possibilities of where my life is going to go in this category, with this negotiation, with that person, with that relationship, all of that I can get out of the field and align light to light. And then someone texts me and I'm like, but someone else is in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Give, it's like to stay with your example, what you will create in your reality from intention and what you will create karmically from, I'm going to be here in the performance evaluation all the way right now. When it's time to be in the lease negotiations, I'll be there all the way in the right now. What you get from being in the right now totally will give you way more than trying to be in both 50-50, which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist, yeah.
It's rapidly jumping from attention on one thing to the other. There's no such thing as splitting focus in two. Mm-hmm. So y'all, like, how can you say you want a great relationship with your child? How can you say you want a great relationship with your partner if you're on your phone while they're trying to talk to you consistently? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I experienced I mentioned earlier, watching Sky, being with Sky, and going to work. And when I say going to work, that's not always go into the building. It's like do some work on my computer, and the conflicting desires there, and how like it's like I'm inefficient at both then if I'm trying to do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And like I know with what I do here at Kali Yoga Center, like the way for me to show up powerfully for this team and for this community is if I got a sentence to connect with you, I'm going to connect with you for a sentence. If I got a 20-minute or 40-minute meeting with you, I'm there. And I've watched that time and time again. I've watched being all in with where I'm at be way more effective than like it's like backpacking the overwhelm, backpacking the agenda. And then that, if I got 16 minutes with Sky that day, if I've got a lunch date with you that day, we grow, we are connected. If on that lunch date, I'm all the way there.
Yeah.
We don't grow, and I've been on these dates with you. We don't grow when my body is there, but my heart and mind is everywhere but there. Mm-hmm. And so that's the that's the surrender the five sensory and live in the heart. So a living in the heart for me requires trust. Mm-hmm. I've got to trust that it's okay to stop ruminating on everything else that's not right here. Yeah. And I got to courageously choose that's what's right now is the most important thing and give everything I got to right now. And trust that right now will always be the most important moment of my life.
Check this out. I recognize that there's some privilege to business ownership. I get to make some decisions about my day and my schedule. And there's some specific to that job, that role, weights and stressors. And that's been a growing edge for me of, like, at the beginning days, you remember this. I mean, it could be this, what I consider now the smallest thing I might go into a 2-day thing about. And just the like, it's like the weight training has really strengthened me up, kept me compassionate, but like gotten me stronger. I had this meeting once with this woman who was like it's like a guide channel. It was pretty cool. And I actually met with her twice during COVID, and she was channeling my guides. And one of the things she said to me is, she said, and this goes back to like what you were saying about the impact of you not being all in, or the impact of you being all in. She channeled the message that, Lindsey, when you're in feeling like you're in over your head, when you're distraught, when you're stressed to the point that you aren't able to focus and be connected, and those days will happen to you because you're growing and you're learning and you're getting better at this path. But when you're there, don't go into the building, because the impact of you going into the building and being with your team is a higher cost in the direction you don't want to grow than you not even showing up that day. Can you do that, Lindsey? And it was just like, wow, yes. Like, yes, that sounds like a great plan. And I've used that from time to time, and it's felt like the most compassionate thing I can do for my own training. And it also is true that it's loving to the team, because there's a cost when I come in here disintegrated. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to show my face when I'm going through things. It's not about hiding. And when I intend to be for people, when I know from a soul level, today's not the day I can be for the person in front of me, it's okay to not be around. Because gosh, when I can be for them, oh, I have such a great impact.
When you can be real. That's intention, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. If this is somehow your first time checking in on the podcast, we have week by week podcasts on the 50 days of evolution, where we are going through Seat of the Soul chapter by chapter. I'm Chris.
I'm Lindsey.
It's nice hanging with y'all. See you later.
See you next chapter.